Welcome to Love Being American, where you can catch up on the major events and political issues that are happening around the country. Now introducing two millennials who love being American. Your hosts, Andrew and Henry.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
Welcome to episode number 10. We're going to be talking about the untold story of American heroes, 13 Hours. This week, we went and saw the Benghazi movie, and it was really good.
Awesome. Fantastic. I mean, of war movies, top two. I can't put it above Saving Private Ryan because that's
a classic.
That's a classic. But one day this might be that classic level. It is that good. If you like Black Hawk Down, you'll love 13 Hours.
Yeah, this is way better than Black Hawk Down.
Absolutely, hands down. I mean, I've seen Black Hawk Down a dozen times at least, and I saw this. And immediately I thought this might be better.
Yeah, it's way better.
Yeah, it's it was a fantastic movie. Michael Bay did a great job.
Yeah, he did do a really good job on this one. I was not to say I wasn't. I don't know. I mean, it's weird because he's done like Transformers, and then
it's for the type of movie seemed a little bit different than what he was used to, and the script written by a few of the Benghazi survivors. It was just all in all a phenomenal movie.
Yeah, it was great. If you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and see it. I would say no spoilers, but since it's a true story, you should already kind of know what happened.
But there's a lot of detail in it.
Yeah, that you wouldn't know.
Had no idea. And the thing is most movies, it's like, oh, this is based on a true movie, on a true story. This is a true story. It's a primary account from the survivors who fought in this. So little details in it will pop up and you'll be like, wow, did that really happen? And it's crazy that these little things actually happen. Like the main character, while they're driving to save the diplomat, his contact comes out and they stop the car so he can put his car. He's like, I can't shoot if I can't see. So in the middle, they're driving like 90 down the streets of Libya and he has to they have to stop for him to put his contact back in. I look over at Andrew. I'm like, did that really happen? He goes, yeah, that 100%.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, three guys who were fighting, Mark Geis, whose nickname's Oz, John Tegan, whose nickname is Tig, and then Chris Pronto, whose nickname is Tonto, worked with Michael Bay on directing the movie and getting everything right. So the whole story is pretty, they said it's
probably as accurate as it can be.
Yeah, exactly. Movie. Coming from them, that's pretty much what they said. And what we're going to talk about tonight is we're kind of going to give you an overview of the movie. We're going to go into a little in depth even more. And then while the movie isn't political, Benghazi is a very political event that happened. And we're going to kind of go into the untold story of Hillary Clinton misleading the nation.
It was a big deal at first, but of course it got blown over. And especially 2 years after they waited to do the hearing. And
not to sound, not to sound biased against Hillary Clinton or anything, but when we get into this, we're going straight off facts. We're going off of evidence has been uncovered from the Benghazi hearing committees and facts that have been brought forth by factcheck.org. So we're not just making
.org, different Secretary of Defense officials.
So we're not just making this stuff up. We got sources here.
But as always, we're drinking some beer. Tonight, I went out on a whim. I got some Miller High Lifes, the champagne of beer.
And I messed up tonight, and I forgot the beer, but luckily Henry...
I'm always picking up Andrew's slack.
Henry got a six-pack for us, so there's enough to go around.
Always enough to go around. And maybe a little leftover. There won't be any leftovers.
We'll see. We'll dive right into it. How'd the movie make you feel? Like, leaving it, I felt like there were so many mixed emotions coming out.
I wanted to join the military during that movie. Like, he got you pumped up. It made you want to fight for your country, to serve for a higher purpose, to serve for others. It was very intense. I teared up a little bit.
Yeah, I looked over it. I saw Henry tearing up towards the end.
There was two times. Once, like, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through. And then once at the very end, I lost it a little bit more. I mean, I didn't make it. I held my composure. Remember the Titans? I tear up every time I seen that movie. This is probably the only other movie that I've teared up for.
I was surprised.
Like, yeah, that's.
I had to do a double take. I'm like, is he tearing up? Me.
I'm not one of that. This movie was that moving. It got to it gripped you that much and it had that effect that if any of you who personally know me know that I'm the last person to shed a tear. It's been a while.
You are. You really are.
So it was just kind of a roller coaster of emotions, and you felt the emotions from the characters on the screen and what they were going through from the turmoil of war. And they even talked about it at one point, and it was actually kind of true, and where there's waves of attack against these this CIA operatives.
Well, let's back up really quickly here. What I found most interesting before we get into the waves of attack was when you hear about Benghazi, you hear about how Chris Stevett, the ambassador, died. He was the person that got highlighted the most, obviously, in the attack on our embassy. But while that was the first attack, that wasn't the real attack. The big attacks happened back at this CIA annex compound in Benghazi, about 1 mile away from where Chris Stevens
technically never existed.
Yeah, technically it never existed, which is why you didn't hear about it in the media so much, because it was this covert facility. But that's where 2 Americans lost their lives, and that's where the heavy attacks were going down. That's really where they engaged the enemy the most at.
It really tells a story that we never heard from a primary source, and that's what the best part about it was.
Yeah, it was like an action-packed documentary, almost.
Oh, absolutely. And it did have a little bit of a documentary feel to
it did.
Very informative. It wasn't far-fetched, the events that happened. There wasn't necessarily Michael Bay. He's known, he'll do Transformers.
Yeah, way over the top special effects.
But it wasn't.
No, it wasn't like
that way
at
all. All of it was you could see being very realistic. Absolutely. And even like in the waves of the attack during one of the breaks, the probably the most famous actor in it, his name in the movie, he plays a guy named Jack. But you see during the waves of attack, there's a lull in between, and when they're sitting down, the guy says, he's like, "This is the worst part. I hate the lull. Your adrenaline goes down, you lose it, then you start thinking, your mind starts racing." And that's what the movie did to you. It took your emotion, it grabbed your emotion, and then it kind of settled down, and it was this roller coaster back and forth. And it was gripping.
Yeah, you almost went through the emotions with them.
Absolutely.
And when the movie's over, 4 Americans are left dead, and you walk out there with these mixed emotions. I felt, one, I was mad almost, because they're kind of left there, right?
They weren't even picked up by a military. The Libyan government military transport brings them back home.
Yeah, they didn't even have an American plane to bring them home. So they're pretty much abandoned by the government. And, the State Department, everyone knew this was going on back at home, yet they weren't sending help. And these were a lot of Americans who were there.
The world knew what was going on. No one was sending help. These people, not the guys who were fighting, but the guys who were doing kind of like the paperwork and doing this stuff.
They're gathering intel and doing
gathering
research.
Intel. They're calling from the closest people they can to fly planes over, send choppers, get these people out of there. And nobody's responding. Nobody's helping. The State Department isn't helping.
Because the CIA annex is supposed to be not there.
It technically never was there.
So they're willing to almost, in a sense, they're basically willing to let all of these people die. And there are probably 30 people inside that compound. That's why I kind of walked out there sad, like just angry that I can't believe that our government would let this happen to
our people.
Yeah, to our people. You're also sad that from the 4 Americans who died, you had Tyrone Woods, who was working at the CIA annex in Benghazi, who lost his life that night. You had Glenn Daughtry, who flew in from Tripoli to help. He was also a contractor, was hired by the CIA to provide protection, and he went there to go have these guys' back.
He was the only one to respond, and he was getting everything that was just stopping him from coming in. That guy came.
And
he came at the last moment.
He came at the last moment possible. And think about this. He flew in from Tripoli and still had time to make that whole travel, get there and fight. And
after being held up for like 4 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours at the airport.
At the airport because they couldn't pay. They couldn't figure out how much to pay and to who to pay to get them safely to the CIA annex. They couldn't bribe. They couldn't figure out how much to bribe and who to bribe. And during that whole time, what was the United States government doing?
Just watching.
Exactly.
you just work out.
And then, of
you
course,
walk out frustrated.
there's Sean Smith, the IT guy.
Yeah.
Chris Stevens, we all have heard, the U.S. ambassador.
All these guys had families, and you can't help but feel sorry and sad for them that they lost their lives and families were destroyed. And
that it was
that's never gonna be
unnecessary.
replaced.
If you watch the movie, there was plenty of opportunity
for them to be protected.
To evacuate, for some measure to be taken.
That could have easily saved their lives.
Easily.
And it was just total neglect on our part. At the same time, because it's mixed emotions, you walk out there feeling like, damn, Americans are badass. Because these soldiers who fought, I mean, they killed what seemed like hundreds of terrorists.
After wave after wave. And again, this wasn't overplayed by Michael Bay. When you watch it, it is all very reasonable to see the way. I mean, there's 6 guys shooting guns against terrorists coming in wave after wave, trying different things. Eventually, a mortar, shooting mortars. They try to deliver a bomb. Fortunately, that was destroyed en route. It's really incredible to see what the United States military and our training, what we can do.
Yeah, you walk out of there being thankful that those guys are on our side.
Protecting us.
Because
those guys have our backs.
Because they're just highly trained and, man, they're deadly. You walk out there being kind of proud of that in our military and having a lot of respect for what these guys do.
Absolutely. The sacrifices that they make. That was the untold story of American Heroes, 13 Hours. This is the untold story of Hillary Clinton misleading the United States of America.
Okay, so we're going to start it off with, on September 11th at 9:56 p.m., gunmen launched an assault using mortars against the CIA annex. This is when Glenn Daughtry and Tyrone Woods, both Navy SEALs again, were killed, and 2 other Americans were wounded during this battle. Not even 4 minutes later,
Hillary Clinton, she issues a statement confirming that Ambassador Stevens was killed and makes reference to some anti-Muslim videos stemming from some protest in Cairo. She said there was protests in Benghazi.
The protests in Benghazi started because of the protests in Cairo.
Right. They're saying that this attack was a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet.
And she goes on to say the United States supports any international effort to degenerate the religious beliefs of others. So basically, their bodies aren't even cold yet, and she's already aligning this attack with a protest because of a video. She from the get-go, she doesn't even know really what happened, hasn't talked to anyone on the ground, just has seen the drone footage.
The State Department isn't responding to anybody in the CIA.
And they're watching the drone footage of this happening the whole entire time. So she just goes with this narrative.
She knows what's going on.
Yeah, and it's almost like she pulls this out of thin air as we keep going on. Hillary Clinton issued that statement at 10 p.m. Then at 11:12 p.m., Hillary Clinton sends an email to her daughter informing her that 2 officers that she handpicked for the assignment, and that was Ambassador Chris Stevens and Sean, the IT guy, were killed by an Al-Qaeda-like group. So she mentions to her daughter it was an Al-Qaeda-like group that killed these individuals.
But she doesn't mention any video, a protest, admits it was a terror organization.
Yeah, a terrorist-like organization. So that's all that happens for that night.
So she says it's a video, and then she
publicly says it's a video.
And then privately to her daughter, she neglects to mention any video whatsoever.
Yeah, and she also in her public statement doesn't say anything about an Al-Qaeda-like group, which I could see her not wanting to say that initially, but it's
for
interesting.
Confirmation issues.
Yeah. So September 12th, the morning after the attacks have happened, Clinton gives a speech at the State Department and said, "Some have sought to justify this vicious behavior along with the protests that took place at our embassy in Cairo yesterday as a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet." So she's basically saying that
Benghazians heard that Cairo's having a protest
because of an
anti-Muslim video. So then they, on a whim, decide we're going to have one too, and we're going to go attack a U.S. embassy and a CIA annex that doesn't exist.
Exactly. And Obama also, during the morning of September 12th, makes reference to an anti-Muslim YouTube video. And I remember this. Like, I was driving in my car. I remember exactly where I was. I had just gone gas, and I remember listening to this, and my thought was, anti-Muslim YouTube video. My first thought was, they have YouTube in Benghazi? That was my first thought, like,
Right.
okay.
Do they have internet in Benghazi?
Yeah, they have internet there. Like, enough people have internet in Benghazi to...
Hey, this is a very global, united world nowadays. Okay, we have
Please.
advanced technologically.
I doubt everyone in Benghazi has Wi-Fi. So it's not like a viral video here where everyone can whip out their phones and see it. I mean, this is freaking
Everybody
war-torn
doesn't have
Benghazi.
yeah.
I don't think everyone
It's
has a
failed
smartphone.
nation state.
So I'm like, that's kind of weird that like all these Benghazians are watching a video on YouTube and then it really pissed them off that much that they're going to go attack. I don't know. I immediately thought it was suspicious and kind of weird. Like, I don't know. That it sounded fishy to me, and I know hindsight's 2020, but I swear I thought it was weird when I heard it. Anyways, so right after Obama makes that statement, the same morning, senior officials who did not permit their names to be used held a briefing with reporters and said they had no idea if internet activity and the extremist attacks were related. So you have people
A contradiction from the State Department in the State Department itself.
They were senior officials in the State Department.
Yeah, so you have Hillary Clinton, who runs this State Department, saying this stemmed from anti-Muslim rhetoric and YouTube videos, and then other officials saying, "Whoa, we have no idea about this." You'd think before the public would be, addressed, that everybody in the State Department would understand and have knowledge of the story going on.
Exactly.
When it seems to be the complete opposite. And then you hear, like, later in that day, 3:04 p.m., interestingly enough, Hillary Clinton, she calls the then Egyptian prime minister. She tells him that we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest.
End quotes. And that account of that call was contained in an email written by State Department Public Officer Lawrence Randolph that summarizes calls between leaders. So he summarized that call.
This email was released by the House Benghazi Committee.
Yeah, so
during the hearing a couple years later, this information was disclosed.
So right away, September 12th, the day after, Hillary Clinton...
Not even a day. 9 hours later.
So this, to me, is a smoking gun. Hillary Clinton admits to the Egyptian prime minister that she knows the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film.
And why'd she call the Egyptian prime minister? Probably to clarify that it had nothing to do. Because why would you? This is Libya. This isn't. This
to try to get on,
to get everybody getting on the same page, making sure that her story can be fact checked to her liking.
Exactly. And before we get any further on this, you might be thinking,
what are the motivation for her creating this story, this narrative in this?
Yeah, contradict. So she's about to make up she's already begun to make up a false narrative. And why does she continue with it after she knows it wasn't a video? There are two reasons. Reason one, the first reason is to make her look good, right? She doesn't want to look
She's in charge of this Benghazi. She knows and gives approval for Ambassador Chris Stevens to come to Benghazi, and she has to know that this CIA annex that doesn't exist exists there. That's her job, is to know this stuff. For her to allow this to happen,
looks horrible.
And for it to fail because of her lack of initiative makes her look terrible. It's a failure in her job as the Secretary of the State.
And the second narrative is because President Obama is running for re-election right in the middle when this happens. The debates between him and Mitt Romney start in October. October's the start of 3 debates. So if this is like
elections in November.
Yeah, the election's less than 2 months away. If this whole thing comes out that Obama and Hillary Clinton failed to basically stop a terrorist attack and protect Americans abroad, this is going to look horrible for him. And it's only going to help Mitt Romney. This narrative was to blame it on something else and say, oh, it wasn't our fault.
Push it under the rug long enough for the elections to take place.
Exactly. So now that we know kind of the two reasons why this false narrative would be made up, we can continue moving on.
So later in the evening, shortly after Hillary Clinton calls the then Egyptian prime minister, unnamed U.S. government officials, according to Reuters, reports that Benghazi attack may have been planned in advance and that members of the Ansar may have been involved. Reuters quotes that one of the U.S. officials saying it bears the hallmarks of an organized attack. If you go back to the movie, if you look at it, it was extremely organized. It was planned out, premeditated.
Yeah, they were shooting mortar rounds into the...
Mortar rounds.
No one brings... I don't care what country it is. No one's bringing mortars to a protest. Yeah, guns maybe, but no one's like, hey, bring the mortar rounds.
We got the mortar in the trunk. Why don't we let's just set that up and see what happens.
So then on September 13th, at a State Department event, Hillary Clinton said the following. Unfortunately, over the last 24 hours, we have seen violence spread elsewhere, other than Benghazi and Cairo. Some seek to justify this behavior as a response to inflammatory and despicable material posted on the internet. Again, she's referencing the video. As I said earlier, the United States rejects both the content and message of that video. End quote. So she's pushing the narrative of the video again.
Again and again.
And again, it's not true. Clinton met with the Moroccan foreign prime minister later that day, and she publicly said again the attacks were in response to a disgusting and reprehensible anti-Muslim video that triggered the violence. I bet you she hasn't even watched the video.
Has it? What video?
Yeah, and it's still unclear what video
she is referring to. And an important note is that that same day, September 13th, 2012, CNN reports that State Department officials who Hillary Clinton is in charge of, says that Benghazi, quote, a clearly planned military-type attack, unrelated to anti-Muslim videos.
Yeah, so there's two paths right now. You have still Obama and Hillary running with the video, and all these other people who are in the
State Department
doing their own thing. And it's like they're not even coordinating with each other, which is weird. Like, why doesn't everyone get on the
same page? You think you do your due diligence when you're the head of the State Department and making sure, whether it's true or not, that everybody's on the same boat as you.
So the next morning, on September 14th, 2012, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta and Vice Chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff briefed the Senate Armed Service Committee. And basically, the senators came out and said that their indication on the Benghazi attacks was that it was a terrorist attack organized and carried out by terrorists, and that it was preempted and a calculated act of terror.
The Senate Armed Service Chairman, Carl Levin, quotes, I think it was a planned and premeditated attack.
And he's a Democrat. So at this point, it's not even political.
Republican, Democrat, it has nothing to do with that. It's her own people. And he even said that he didn't even know the specific group responsible for the assault on the complex. There's so much contradiction between Hillary is covering her ass.
Yeah.
She's covering hers and Obama's.
So this is where another character gets added into the mix, and you've all heard of this if you watch the news. Susan Rice, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, was basically that Sunday going to go on all of the Sunday shows and talk about the Benghazi attack and kind of, in a sense, address the American people and let
clear up the error, the confusion of what is actually going on.
Yeah, and let everyone know what happened. So 2 days before she did that, on Friday, the Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategic Communication, Ben Rhodes, sent an email to other administrative officials, including White House Press Secretary Jay Carnegie at the time, with the subject line, prep call with Susan, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This email outlined 4 goals for Rice's TV appearance. One of the goals was to underscore that these protests are rooted in an internet video and not a part of a broader failure of policy. The email also contained a mock Q&A session, and the third question in that Q&A session asked whether or not the Benghazi attack was an intelligence failure. So, Susan is the puppet for Hillary and Obama to go out there, push their agenda to the American people and sell the American people on a video caused this attack and it wasn't an intelligence failure. So she's their speaking, she's like their puppet. She's their mouthpiece.
And then it's 2 days later, September 16th, 2012, so we got somebody who's actually a little closer to the actual attack, the Libyan president. At the time, he says that on CBS News, Face the Nation, that the attack on the U.S. consulate was planned months in advance. If you look at the movie, if you watch the movie, there are several times when there are the security personnel for the consulate and the CIA annex, they're actually Libyans. And there's a group of them that are Libyans. And every time that something's about to happen, you see all these Libyans, they spread. Everyone knows. And even at one point during the movie, one of the areas hired by the CIA says, he goes, how come everybody knows about this except for us?
Exactly.
And so the Libyan president is even saying it's planned in advance.
And the irony of that is the day he said he knew it was planned in advance was the day Susan Rice goes on the morning talk shows. And this is exactly what she said. It was a spontaneous, not premeditated attack, and it was a response to whatever had transpired in Cairo. And in Cairo, as you know, a few hours earlier, there's a violent protest that was in reaction to this offensive video that we still don't know what it is.
Who would you believe? The Libyan president who's there, or Susan Rice, who probably has never even been close to Libya?
I know. Naturally, I like to believe the American over everyone else.
100%.
It's just the fault in me, and so would the American people. So you're like, he probably doesn't know. He doesn't have our intelligence.
He has an agenda.
Because I'd like to think that the people
he doesn't like the United States, so like he's probably has his own reasons for saying this and that. But as all this information has come out,
you look back and you're like, oh, he's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this is actually kind of this is like the last chance that you see that like Hillary's doing everything she can to cover up her tracks.
So we still don't know what this video is. And then finally on September 27th, 2012, the FBI arrests Mark Yosef, an Egyptian-born U.S. resident in Los Angeles, who is the writer, producer, and promoter. This guy wears a lot of hats, apparently, of the movie Innocence of Muslims. And it's an anti-Islamic video that basically degenerates the Prophet Muhammad. And this is the video that sparked...
This is the video. We finally figured out what video could be the one that sparked these Benghazi, quote, protests.
And this was him. And before you say, wait, why was he arrested? Like, free speech, you can do that.
Right.
He was on probation for a check fraud conviction, I think a couple years earlier. And he was rearrested for violating his probation.
And his violation was for lying to probation officers and using aliases. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison. We haven't heard of him since.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's still alive. He got out, whatever, but he got convicted and had to serve his 1 year. But it was like, oh, go away for this year while we're trying to win an election.
Right.
I mean, they pretty much dropped the hammer on this guy a little bit and
like
totally blamed him for something that probably wasn't his fault at all.
Nothing to do with this. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, it's crazy that the length, the extreme lengths that are going on to do whatever they can to cover this up. And they're doing a terrible job. I would expect the State Department, the United States, to do a better job in covering their tracks. And this is a complete failure in all capacities.
It's so weird. And I think the movie was removed from YouTube. I don't think you can find it on there.
Darn it.
Which is interesting. I know. I kind of wanted to watch it.
Was it even there in the first place? Was it even there in the first place?
That's a good point. So things are about to start to unravel here. On October 9th, 2012, at a background briefing, senior State Department officials revealed there were no protests prior to the terrorist attack in Benghazi, contrary to what administration officials have been saying for weeks. Finally, Clinton comes out and admits a few days later on October 15th, 2012, that in the wake of an attack like this, in the fog of war, there's always going to be confusion. I think it's absolutely fair to say everyone has the same intelligence. So she's basically saying that the video, in a loose way, the video wasn't the cause of it. Right. After all these people are coming out, and she's blaming the fog of war.
The fog of war. We're the United States of America. We have a Predator drone hovering over there the entire time this is going on. We have an up-to-date, second-by-second actual video of what's going on.
There was no fog for her.
There was no
she was
fog.
seeing it clearly from her pushy office.
She's watching this the entire time and doing nothing, realizing that she messed up and trying to do whatever she can. Oh, I'm sorry. Things happen, the fog of war. You can't see in the fog. There was no fog.
Things even get worse from there. On October 24th, 2012, Reuters reports that they obtained 3 emails from the State Department Operations Center and confirmed that the Pentagon and other government agencies learned just 2 hours into the Benghazi attack, Islamic militant group, these terrorists, had claimed credit for it. So they knew it was pretty much an organized attack.
It was an organized attack.
And even more of a smoking gun.
Random protest. They knew. So if the State Department knew while this is going on in the Benghazi, so basically while the U.S. consulate is being attacked, before even the CIA annex, they could have had a response team there. They could have been doing something. Those guys in Tripoli could have been there right then and there. But if you go back to the movie, there are multiple times where there's actually a conflict in stories where the guys at the CIA annex are trying to go save the ambassador, knowing that this attack is going on. And the CIA tells them to stand down. And then later CIA says, oh, we never said that. Why would the CIA annex, who's not supposed to be there, say that they were told to stand down? These guys wanted to go and save other American lives. And the CIA, the State Department, told them not to.
After that, this story
2 years later.
Hold on, but before that, this story keeps getting news, but Hillary blames the fog of war. And you have to understand that we're in a 24-hour news cycle, there's other events, and it's smack dab in the middle of a presidential election. So while this shouldn't have happened, this story kind of starts to take a back seat.
Gets swept under
because
the rug.
It's been going on for 3 weeks. They need something new.
There's no clear news story on what's going on.
October is debate season, so you got the presidential debates, you got the big party rallies, the elections coming up in less than a month, so this kind of goes away. And then it reemerges again on May 8th, 2014, when the House voted to establish a Benghazi committee and elects Trey Gowdy from South Carolina to head the committee. By the way, he has the weirdest, either he's got a weird haircut or he just has the weirdest shaped head I've ever seen in my life. If you've seen him, I don't know what's up with it.
It's like just bad genes.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got to get a haircut or something, but anyways. So this is kind of when the Benghazi thing becomes political because people are like, oh, this Benghazi committee is just a witch hunt to go after Hillary Clinton, knowing she's going to be the Democratic nominee.
Yeah.
And things start to get really political. And then the first hearing happens on September 17th, 2014. And it's almost 2 years after the attacks have happened. And this is when Hillary Clinton says her famous quote. If you watch the news, you've seen it. She said,
was it because of a protest or was it because of guys out for a walk one night and decided they go kill some Americans? What difference, at this point, what difference does it make? That is Hillary saying, who cares? It already happened. This is the end of it. She's over it. She's lost her head. She's done dealing with this. And this is where her emotion comes out. She falters a little bit.
Yeah, she does. You can tell she's clearly angry. She's upset. She's basically saying, we just need to learn how we can prevent this from happening in the future. But it does make a difference. It makes a difference.
A huge difference because it was an opportunity we missed.
Yes, and it also makes a difference because
you're a state fault.
Yeah, well, that too, but more than that, why this happened is because she was pushing a false agenda the whole time. You're a State Department official. You answer to the American people. The American people don't answer to you. You answer to us. You lied to us. You need to be held accountable. You deliberately push a separate agenda for your own political purposes, and that's why this frickin' matters. That's what she doesn't get. You can't go do whatever the hell you want. You need to be held accountable. You can't lie to the American people.
And honestly,
that's bullshit.
If she did admit, saying, wow, even if she said there was a lack of intelligence, we were misinformed, we were unable to get these guys out. This is a tragedy that
without
happened.
ever pushing the video.
Without ever pushing the video, I don't think it would have had any effect on the election.
No, just
on
tell
her
the goddamn
status.
truth.
People make mistakes. If you admit it, people are going to be forgiving. We're Americans. We forgive all the time. But the fact that you lied to us over and over and over again.
From the get-go.
You're doing one thing, talking to this Libyan president saying, or the Egyptian president saying, oh, yeah, we know that it wasn't a terrorist attack. Then 2 hours later saying, yeah, this was pushed by this unknown video. It's garbage, and it's a misrepresentation. It is, unfortunately, a complete failure and lack of competence by Hillary Clinton.
Exactly. The Benghazi hearing, so those are done. She didn't get any repercussions from this. Nothing happened. She just blamed the fog of war and whatever. I don't know what the repercussions should have been.
I mean, do you try her for something? I don't know how that would
I don't know
work.
legally how that'd work either.
But the thing is again, it's been kind of swept under the rug. I think this movie brings a little bit to light. It's been over, 3.5 years, coming on 4 years that since this has happened. It's not going to, I don't think, affect her like it should. She's not going to be held responsible in any way, shape, or form. She's running for election. She's dodging these bullets.
Do you think this should disqualify her to be president?
If I was going to vote for her and I knew all this information now, absolutely.
I think this is a clear disqualification. If you lied to the American people that bluntly and openly, she doesn't deserve to be president.
If she admitted her mistake,
she doesn't love this country.
Absolutely not.
She doesn't love the American people of this country.
No.
She loves her power.
She loves her power. She loves her status, and that's what she's trying to maintain.
She's she's above being like a political establishment. She's a Washington elitist, and she thinks she can get away with anything.
And that's unfortunately who we have. The fact that she's still able to run and has the popular support that she does bothers me.
Me too. And from here, we're diving right into our schmuck of the week, which is Hillary Clinton.
Which is, of course, Hillary Clinton.
And this is why this week, if you haven't heard, Hillary Clinton had her own private server while she was Secretary of State, where she kept all of her emails on. That is illegal. Or even if it's not illegal, it's frowned upon. I think it's not illegal. It's frowned upon. Anyways, what makes it illegal is if she sent or received classified information from that server. So, Hillary Clinton has said multiple times, because there's been an investigation into this, that she was using a private email server while she was Secretary of State, which is a huge national security, flub. She can't do that. People could hack into it. It's not secured properly. Anyways, Hillary Clinton multiple times has said she has not sent or received classified information from this server. Well, President Obama and the FBI had to, basically, the intelligence community launched an investigation into this, right? And this guy, Intelligence Community Inspector General Charles how do you say his last name?
McCullough?
Yeah, butchering names. The third. He was appointed by Obama, looked into this matter, and he concluded this week that Clinton's server had contained top secret emails and special access program emails as well.
We talk about classified, everybody knows classified, nobody's supposed to know about it, only certain people. This is beyond classified. Congress doesn't know about it.
But these are basically, the special access programs are things where we've had people embedded undercover for years. If someone got a hold of these emails, this would lead to people getting killed.
You think Edward Snowden, you think that was a big deal? This would put that to shame.
Again, bonehead move. They're saying she could possibly get indicted for this. I don't know if I see it happening.
Her position, her power, I doubt it.
So she's basically our schmuck of the week.
Maybe that is why Obama kind of gave a Bernie Sanders endorsement.
From what it sounded like, I think so.
Yeah, and in our discussion in our podcast last week, that might have turned his mind in seeing that she is not adequate to lead this nation.
I agree. I definitely agree. I wanted to touch upon something really quick. We talked about him tonight. Glenn Daughtry was one of the Marines who lost his life in the Benghazi attack. And his sister started a foundation called the Glenn Daughtry Memorial Foundation. And we wanted to bring it up tonight because we think it's important that people know about it. And what it does is it gives scholarships for current and former special operations professionals for traditional education. And this isn't only education for them per se, it's for their family. And it could be college, it could be vocational and non-traditional training. It also helps them go to camps, and as well as gifts for the families of special operations professionals and foreign services officers where there is a loss of life or a debilitating injury was suffered. So, Love Being American, Henry and I, we are going to go and give a donation to this because we think it's a good cause and sort of our way of giving back, the only way we know how to these brave Americans.
To these heroes.
So we're going to put a link in the show notes. And, even if it's only $5 or $10, we encourage you to maybe make a donation. If you're into doing something charitable in light of everything, give a little back to these guys and their families.
For the sacrifices that they made with their life.
So with that being said, thanks for joining us tonight again. We really appreciate you tuning in and listening. If you guys could go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, that would be huge for us. It helps us rank higher. It gets our podcast out there more, helps other people listen to it. It's honestly one of the highest compliments you can give us. And then we're also giving away free t-shirts every week to someone who does it. This week, we're giving a free t-shirt away to Julie, and her username is Julie07. Julie07, if you could send an email to Andrew at Love Being American, we'll find out your shipping information and get you hooked up with a shirt. Henry, you want to tell them about the blabs we're doing every Monday now?
Every Monday, 7 o'clock, we're giving blabs. Basically,
we're doing blabs, not giving blabs.
We're doing blabs. Gives you the opportunity essentially to call in and have video FaceTime with us. Sign up for a blab, get your app, sign in through Twitter. Everybody's got a Twitter. Sign in through that. That way you can get face to face with Andrew and Henry. And
we can talk politics.
We talk politics. Discuss what's going on. You give your opinions. We give our opinions. We talk. We chit chat. We get to know you better. You get to know us better.
Get involved with the Love Being American community.
Absolutely.
So, tune in tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And with that being said, I'm Andrew.
I'm Henry.
We love being American.